A changelog is a record of all the changes that have been made to a software program and has been released and updated, sometimes several times in its lifetime. The changeling is a substitute left behind by a supernatural being when a child has been kidnapped or stolen. Changelings are often constructed from wood, while changelogs often originate from comments inserted into a program's code when a software update has been implemented. Changelings were also historically referred to as oaf sometimes. There are no other references to Led Zeppelin songs in this video. Public urination in the workplace is often frowned upon in most code of conduct policies. There will be a link to the Wikipedia article on changelings in the description, as some of the content in this video is subversive in nature. Fair warning, the intent of this video is to show off the entire template of the Changelogs training set, so there will be some content presented more than once. What is a changelog? A changelog provides a chronological list of all changes and different versions of a product, serves to record the changes, and helps to build a map to know the evolution of a product or service. What is a changeling? A changeling is a substitute for a family's child when supernatural beings like fairies or trolls have abducted a human child. Changelings usually fail to be productive members of society. In public places, men should urinate while standing up, aiming away from their own feet. It is usually considered an insult if you urinate on another person's feet. Women should squat while urinating, so that the urine doesn't run down their legs and stick up their shoes. What would you see if your child has been replaced by a changeling? Longer teeth or fangs, sometimes bearded at a freakishly young age. Odd behavior when it thinks it is alone. Changelings are known to jump around in private, often on pieces of furniture, or cast themselves into walls. Changelings will expend an unnecessary amount of energy in their antics, and will claim that their creativity is being stifled if they are told to stop fidgeting or simply just behave. Ravenous appetite and mukbang behaviors at mealtime. Sickly or weak temperament. In the Middle Ages, when resources were actually scarce and every member of a family must contribute to the welfare and well-being of the household, changelings were often seen as an undue burden on the family's resources and were often returned to the suspected supernatural beings who took the child in the nearest uninhabited wooded area where other humans would not cross paths with them. Constructed from wood. Unlike Monty Python's Sir Bedivere, we know that witches are not made of wood, but changelings are. As such, you should not build a bridge out of one, as you could also use stone for that, and the changeling would be a bit put out by such a suggestion. In the Middle Ages, infanticide was seen as a viable solution to the problem of changelings, but we are a much more urbane and civilized society than those Cretans, or are we? Extreme intelligence or uncanny insight. In the Middle Ages, as in modern times, precocious children who betray wisdom beyond their years or have quote-unquote seen behind the veil are ostracized and looked down upon. Successful societies are built on consensus, and anybody who disavows that consensus will disrupt that society and should not be tolerated.
What the hell are you?
What makes a good changeling? Safety is simple. Humans might be equally flammable, but changelings are constructed from wood. Keep them away from fire. Unlike humans, changelings are very poor conductors of electricity, so you can safely line their cribs with naked wires and plug them in. Bathing your changeling. Use Murphy's oil soap and scrub diligently to get those hard-to-reach places. Scrub, scrub, scrub till the water's brown. Avoid using heavy electrical carpentry equipment while bathing your changeling, as this will terrify the young one and could electrocute the bather. Feeding your changeling. Avoid fancy show-offy foods. Remember that changelings have a ravenous appetite, so feed them lots of plain foods and soup. Aspic is just the British word for jello. Why keep a changelog? Customers and users want to know about every change in tools or platforms that they use, and this wish has one purpose: make it easier to see if it is worth continuing to use it or not. In short, yes, keep your changelogs. During the Middle Ages, a family member who consumed too much couldn't help to support the family household or cause another family member to be less productive was an actual threat to the livelihood of the household, and thus needed to be removed from the household, either by eviction or infanticide. Being constructed from wood was a telling symptom. Simply by being labeled a changeling, a family's new infant could be killed in order to preserve the remainder of the household simply by being considered non-human. It made the decision easier to convert another mouth to feed into another log for the fire. In the 21st century, infant mortality rates are much lower and childhood diseases are curable with proper medical treatment and even safely preventable with vaccinations. A childhood riddled with affliction will not keep a changeling from growing up to lead a healthy and fruitful life. Besides, considering a child to be non-human is illegal in most countries. Our modern culture is much more supportive of struggling families and understands the devastating tragedy of losing a child better than we did in the Middle Ages. Well, maybe not across party lines. However, being constructed of wood, changelings would make a great fire log, and as they say in Game of Thrones, winter is coming.
If your changeling is sickly or has dementia, offer platitudes and reassurances, but do not give in to its demands. If your changeling has a psychosis or delusional perspective, resist the urge to play chess with it, as it will only scatter the pieces, defecate on the board, and claim victory. If your changeling has a ravenous appetite, you should upload mukbang videos of its eating habits so that viewers will donate to your GoFundMe account in support of your alarmingly high grocery bills. If your changeling suffers from executive dysfunction or procrastination in performing its household chores, establish deadlines and schedules to enforce more structure in its life. If your changeling delivers Rickroll speeches in Congress, upload videos of its performances to TikTok, as the payouts are much higher for ad revenues on that platform than on YouTube. If your changeling expresses obstinate perspectives or suggests obstructive measures in its promises, make sure to encourage your neighbors to vote it out of office when it runs for re-election. If your changeling makes inappropriate or disrespectful commentary in its speech, stifle it with wet towels when it is around other people, as they should rightfully be offended by such things. Wait, this is the 21st century. People love a braggart these days. Remember that your actual child is being raised by fairies or trolls in some distant and unreachable forest, and your only hope of a connection to your real offspring is this wooden thing with its temper tantrums and softened stools.
Why did people think their children were changelings? Some cultures believe that trolls found it more respectable to be raised by humans, so they would seize the opportunity to sneak their offspring into a human family until it was grown up. Other cultures believe that elder fairies would be exchanged for a human baby, so that the old fairy could live out its last days coddled in human comforts, enjoy its senescence and serenity, as it were. Other beliefs held that human babies were being taken to serve as servants in the troll or fairy world, and the kidnappers would leave their own babies in order to delay the human parents' suspicions. Are changelings safe around your pets? Not really. Dogs will repeatedly urinate on them to mark their territory, and cats will use them as scratching posts, as they cannot distinguish them from a piece of furniture. Parrots will learn non-human languages from them and spout nonsense instead of their preferred cackling for crackers. Snakes would refuse to cuddle up with them, as they do not consider a stump of wood to be food. Why was it considered a viable option to kill a changeling in the Middle Ages? In the Middle Ages, with feudalism the governing economic principle in the world, most peasants lived short lives in scarcity, and every member of every family was needed to help provide for the meager food that they could hunt, domesticate, or farm. Their morality was deeply lacking because all they wanted was a child born but not a child fed, not a child educated, not a child housed. If a child couldn't support the family's economy either by hunting or farming, it was a drain on the family's resources and needed to be killed off in order to preserve the productive members of the family. Is it safe to operate heavy construction machinery while bathing my changeling? Being made of wood, changelings would be terrified at the sound of carpentry equipment being fired up. I would avoid operating a chainsaw while bathing your changeling, or a circular saw or ribbon saw. There is also the danger of electrocuting the operator when bathing a changeling while operating electrical equipment, so yeah, then there's that.